So, good morning. Welcome to the latest podcast from Tecman Talks Dynamics. Here with my three amigos, as usual, to talk about all things Dynamics. And I think we've just hit the BC20 upgrade cycle. So, SaaS have rolled out, are rolling out. There's been a few glitches, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, there was quite a few bugs. So 20.1 has already been released. Which
we had two pauses, didn't we, on the rollout?
Yeah, so the update started. We only ever got as far as updating sandboxes, and then the update was paused completely. It's now been restarted, but 20.1 it has already been released. So there will be virtually an immediate update again to 20.1, which is bug fixes on 20.
And there was part of me that perversely quite liked the fact that there was a few bugs in there, and I'll explain why, which is I've never felt that before, but this time. So because we launched the managed service for our SaaS clients, okay, and because the ones that were we were managing, we delayed the implementation, they all stayed on 19, so they had zero disruption. Because Microsoft have this policy of, right, we're just doing the upgrades, bang, if you don't put any dates in, if you don't kind of manage the process, it goes through much quicker. It was actually the unmanaged clients who got all the disruption, wasn't it? Which kind of sells the value of what we do.
Yeah, we were able to identify the issues in when we did the sandboxes, and then we pushed everything back, and then now it's ready to roll again. Now we know that the bugs are coming and we know what they are, then we can do it in a much more managed way.
Work around them. So it does kind of show that, yes, SaaS, you do get an upgrade, but it does need to be carefully managed, I guess is the word, if it's not going to cause you any significant disruption. Because some of the bugs were fairly show-stopping.
Yeah.
Well, the first one you couldn't log on. So yeah, quite a showstopper. So if you didn't have kind of super permissions, so you'd set up a restricted set of permissions, there was a new table added, and that wasn't considered with security, and therefore if you didn't have access to that, it wouldn't even let you get past the login screen. So you had to get a super user to go and add that table. It's fairly easy to fix.
There's a workaround for that.
It's easy to fix. Printing.
But doesn't this show the fact that this is where so Microsoft, I think, do all their testing against a clean, fresh Cronus Plus with a also user, super user. They never
Surely
licenses.
not. Surely they don't test everything as a super user.
Well,
clearly they do.
If you do one run of the whole test suite, then there's that much functionality you've got to test. You probably need to be a super user.
Well, you must do, because if you'd have tested it with anything other than a super user, then you'd have got that problem, wouldn't you? So.
Well, I mean, when we do automated testing, I don't think we've cracked the point of, we actually still use our license for all the DevOps stuff rather than using the customer-specific license. Because maintaining a library of all the customer-specific license and pulling the right one out would be, wow. We'll probably get there one day maybe, but that's a biggie. So the whole permissions thing, and I think also it shows that sometimes it's the upgrade. Because if it had been a new system, probably initialization would have populated that table with something where you're upgrading through. Nobody puts the upgrade code in, and suddenly that's what fails. So it does really reinforce the need to go create a sandbox and actually do some testing around,
and also
that
to
process.
make sure that we're ready. Even when we've tested, even when those updates happen, we've got resources available to help people should they experience something that just nobody's found.
Which you can only do if you know the date that upgrade's going to happen. So that's where you need to manage. And preferably make sure that not all clients are having the update on the same day.
We talked about the possibilities of whether Microsoft would consider an inside track where a certain range of customers can go first, and they understand they're on the fast track, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that was a suggestion 2-3 years ago now, probably. Actually, when quality was probably more problematic than it is now. And you have it in Windows, you can subscribe to the Insiders Ring. I think it's still called. I haven't been on it for a while. I gave that up. But could you do the same thing for Dynamics? I think that's something rather than just everybody.
I think it's tough though, isn't it? Because when it's Windows, you probably have a few people in your organisation that have a laptop with that's what I did, a spare laptop with the Insider, the preview on. When it's your business system,
and you're putting yourself on the Insider Ring.
Absolutely, yeah, brave. Like you guys said, the managed service allowing us to probably stagger when the updates are happening is got to be a good thing, right? Because at least it's not everybody on Monday night where if there is a problem like that.
Well, the communications.
We do sandbox first,
Yeah.
and then stagger the production environments a little bit to make sure that we can deal with any fallout. If you haven't got the managed service, then obviously you can still log a support case, but we haven't necessarily got somebody that can jump on it straight away.
Different customers have different preferences on the day they want to be upgraded, because
I think
weekend,
as well,
have some work weekends, and
Sure.
it's the busiest part of
it's really important that people understand there is no rollback. We can't. If we were doing an on-premise upgrade over a weekend and something went horribly wrong, then you could potentially revert to the previous version.
I guess you could request that support restored you.
But I don't, not back a version though. I don't think once you've gone, it's very
Can't be
difficult to
right,
go
because almost it means that your backups are useless.
You could do it, but not instant. It would take a little
it
while.
would take, yeah.
I think it's not a case of push a button and you can roll back to a previous version. Whether that's an update or whether that's a new release of software to live, it's not a simple case of push a button, revert back. So if you did need to do it, I don't know how long that would take, but I don't think that would be a quick process to request a
Well, we've
a
never had
restore.
to, have we?
No, not yet.
We've always managed to work it through and make it work. One day that will come, I'm sure. Something will happen.
Something might happen, and we
But,
have to do
I
it.
mean,
But
I
I
think-
don't think it'd be quick.
I understand from others who have done it that actually it's not bad, and support jump on it, and Microsoft are okay around getting that. I've not heard about it going back a version, but
That's the thing. I think if it was a data issue or some reason, and you had to just go back to a previous point in time, that's one thing. But to go back to a previous point in time and revert versions,
Although
potentially where you've had all your extensions updated as well, I don't know.
I mean, touch wood. I can't recall really ever. That
Once
that
never happened,
being a
that's why it
need
was never-
going back.
To
even
go
on
back.
premise, once
Yeah,
the first
yeah.
transaction's gone through on the upgraded
Yeah.
system, you're kind of committed in because nobody could
Yeah, and if
remember
you-
what that was and redo it.
And if you've
So-
done it in a sandbox as well
We
already
would,
and tested it, then
and we would much rather put it right than go back.
And actually, what we tend to do is put, you'd restore into a sandbox. You'd restore the old data into a sandbox and then retrieve what you need, because it's generally data that you're after, isn't it?
Usually, yeah.
It's some updates.
So that's the bad news.
Well, no, is it bad news?
Well, it's real, isn't it?
it's the real world, isn't it?
BC20, there were a lot of new features.
Yeah.
You've seen the documentation that we've released in the managed service, which details all of those new features and how to use them. Alongside that, we've probably had 3 or 4 bugs.
Yeah.
On balance, I think I would rather move forward on BC20 than not. And 20.1 will come hot on its heels and fix them. But actually, yes, there's been a couple of issues with it, but some of the things that has been released alongside it and we will get next, and we'll put you on that track, will certainly outweigh the inconvenience of a few bugs that got introduced.
I think maturity is arriving, because I think, I'm sure it's not just us, I'm sure all partners out there are learning to manage this process. It is quite different. It's not like Office. As you said, Liam, you could have 3 people who upgrade on Office, find it's a disaster and stop the rest of the organisation. Because BC Dynamics is organisation-wide, it's a bit more serious, but we are learning to manage it now and catch when things go wrong and stop it having negative impact.
Yes.
For me, that's maturity. That's the new model working as it needs to for the future.
Yeah.
So I think that's, we are learning what's doing. The other thing, I think, the communications, because typically we've always communicated with one person within the client. the stuff we did this time to help them tell everybody else within their organisation, this is what's going to change, this is the date it's going to change on, this is where you can have a preview of it, that sort of stuff, I think is just, again, getting that into kind of production mode so that we can do it at scale for all those different clients is really worth doing.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely the benefits outweigh the few slight issues for me, 100%.
Yeah.
And then of course you're on track then to get the next update, and the next update after that, and all the things that are coming, which there are many.
And I think, you know, we are seeing now that SaaS, the migration across to SaaS is, you know, the herd is on the planes marching across. It's I think there's so many good case studies now.
Yeah, quite a few now. The last one we did, in fact, the account manager said to me yesterday, they were ready to switch off their old on-premise system now. You know, everything had migrated. They did a full system migration, not opening balance or something like that. Full migration of all the data, so they didn't need to keep the old database. They're ready for us to shut that down now. Very, very quickly, and that was a very, very smooth transition. And the more we do, we've got our list of gotchas. We know which bits are set up we need to redo, which bits are set up don't transfer across, job queues, user setup, things like that. So every one we do just gets a little bit easier and a little bit smoother. The time that it takes still varies quite a lot. You'd say you can do a test run and it takes 4 hours, and then when you do the live it can take 6 hours or half an hour. I'm thinking it must depend what's going on around it in the environment at the time, so that can be slightly more difficult to plan, but the process itself seems now very stable and very manageable, so that move across to SaaS I don't think is a bigger jump.
So you've got the migrations now not predictable in terms of time, but predictable in terms of quality. That's the only thing that
doesn't seem very predictable.
You know, once you get there, it's a pretty good space, and you know, there's lots of now an increasing list of advantages for being there. I suppose the thing, Liam, that's come back is the licensing part of it.
Yeah, so
there is a few changes there.
There is some few changes. Liz talked about the transition. Microsoft just announced that the promotion that they introduced for existing NAV users to go to BC is going to be extended. So that was the good news. It should have finished, I think, the end of June this year, end of Microsoft's financial year. So the Bridge to the Cloud promo, that's now available to customers wherever you are in your annual BREP renewal. You can move across at any time and they'll work it all out.
So these are customers that've got existing perpetual licenses that want to make the move,
want to make the jump
to the latest version or ultimately to SaaS.
To SaaS, yeah.
And they get a discounted.
You get a 40% discount.
40% discount, and that discount
off the subscription price. So you're moving away from your one payment on your maintenance every year through to a subscription and a monthly payment.
So for these people, they need to bear in mind they are going from a perpetual license where they would have been paying the same annual cost every year for many, many years.
Yeah.
That's on a perpetual license, which is based on
percentage of the
concurrent users.
Yeah.
So as part of the move to SaaS,
but for the last few releases of Business Central, it's been named. Some of them are on,
but they will have got the 3 for 1.
Yes.
So, but they will have to go to per user per month.
Yeah, when you go to Bridge to Cloud, you go to.
But they will get 40% discount.
Correct.
On that.
Yeah, and that allows you to stick on that promotion for up to 4 years. You get the first year, obviously, you sign up for 12 months, and then you can extend it by a further 3 years, so you can have 4 years in total. So that means you are fixing your price for that 4 years. You know what the cost is per user, and you are getting quite a hefty discount. But at the end of that, you have to move on to the
standard pricing,
to the normal pricing. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's one of those, we've done it with few customers. The account managers come have a chat occasionally and said, look, we've tried to do the maths here on what it's going to look like in 4 years' time if the pricing was the same. Obviously, the jump to named users does make an impact on some organisations when they look at how many people they actually have to list as a registered user. So it's just do the maths. You lose some stuff once you go to the platform. You haven't got to do a lot of the additional tables
hardware and
well, yeah. But I know upgrade costs. You know,
licensing.
if you're doing an upgrade every couple of years, that's a significant cost.
You've got to pay for managed service. I've just done a plug for that. So, you know, it's different.
Yeah, but that's
It's
an
different.
absolute bargain.
Yeah,
compared to an upgrade
we talk
every
about
2 years.
predictable pricing. We tell you how much the managed service is going to cost, so you know how much it is. You do an upgrade, and then you get
it's
the
just
quotes.
it's just a monthly cost.
Also, as well, I think it's a time for people to, especially if any customers have got multiple databases and multiple licenses, it's a time to really look at how you bring all that together. I was talking to a customer yesterday that's in exactly that position, and actually look into the future using the one tenant with multiple production environments could offer some real cost benefits, because then you've got, you know, one user can work across all of those production environments, and in terms of the way that it calculates your available storage and things like that, that there might be some real benefit in terms of licensing, and also bringing everything into this neat one type of licensing across the board. You know, we've got customers who might have multiple databases, either because they've grown through acquisition, or, you know, just because they've entered different parts of the business, on different
localizations, multiple localizations.
Different parts of the business is on different versions, different license types. And it's a real chance to kind of get all that into a good structure, and potentially offer some real...
So coming back to the controversial bit, and I'll float this one, you're saving 40% for 4 years on the subscription. So, you know, that you could sit down and work out the value of that as at today. But my question is, if you're still a couple of years away from getting to SAP, should you continue paying your BREP? Because in effect, does the value of the 40% discount when you get there in a couple of years for 4 years outweigh, you know, what you're not getting? Because you're not probably ever going to do another perpetual upgrade, are you?
So you're saying don't pay your BREP?
Well,
because you have to be on an active enhancement plan to take advantage of the promotion.
Okay. So that's where they've got you. Well, I suppose, Liam, if you're paying 2 years worth of BREP, and that's, I don't know, 10 grand a year or something, which is not unusual.
The equivalent of your 40% discount.
The 40% discount for 4 years, is that going to cost you 20 grand?
And that's the point, isn't it? Every single one of our customers is in a slightly different situation, so it's basically a case of doing the maths of every scenario, and that's where we can help. Is to lay out the scenarios, what you pay now, what you'll pay in the future, based on all those different types of promos and options. And actually, it might be that the right, because actually your BREP's going to go up as well.
It is. That was the other big news. So if you are doing those calculations, you need to know.
I should be the voice of doom again.
But yeah, from the 1st of October, anybody's BREP that renews after the 1st of October, it's going to be 17% of your license value, and for at least the last 15 years I can remember, it's been 16%.
Yeah. So when they say that BREP's going up by 1%, that doesn't sound too horrific until you think about what that actually means, because that is 1% of the list price of your software.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you purchase your software,
so I don't know
costs,
how much percentage increase. I can't work out what a 60.
4 or 5, something like that.
Yeah, it's actually quite it's quite significant, especially if you've got a large license value. And again, that can vary massively depending on at what point you bought the software, but that could be.
But if you bought
quite a
your
big
software
increase.
10, 15 years ago, actually
You've had a good deal.
Yeah, I think that's
you're not
the
going
point,
to complain.
isn't it?
It's probably the people who bought it 3 years ago, isn't it? But to be frank, whoever sold you a perpetual license 3 years ago, you know, that was the mistake.
That's still
probably.
some customers' preference, isn't it? And
It was.
We've had some customers that we've said no, don't, and they've insisted they want to buy a perpetual license.
I maybe I'd have less sympathy for them, Liz, because they made that choice.
I think our advice would have definitely have been not to do that.
But bluntly, you know, again, some competitors were selling perpetual licenses up until the point where they absolutely could.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we were doing competes 2 years ago where still the competition were going in and saying buy a perpetual license, and it was wrong, but it was, you know, they made the most amount of money doing it, and that was their motivation.
But certainly if you've had the software,
fine,
like you said, 10, 15 years, then actually in the course of it, it's not a major increase. But you need to keep it current if you want to be able to upgrade your software.
It'll be interesting.
You want to take advantage of the promos.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if Microsoft make this a more regular occurrence, that the enhancement plan, the BREP, goes up every few years, where it's been very, very static
you feel
and flat.
That
a way
would
of
just
leveraging
strengthen
people
the case to leverage
go to
people
SaaS,
to go
yeah.
over to
subscription,
different licensing.
So,
I mean, if you look at the value, for a BC SaaS subscription, especially Essentials, 57, whatever it is,
57.
40, or whatever it is, you employ somebody. The cost of employment. I was driving into work this morning. Here in the UK, wage inflation is the highest it's been. Employment is the lowest. Unemployment, is the lowest it's been since 1974. There's a real shortage of people. Surely getting your people, if £57 is what it takes to make your people productive and get a little bit more out of them, I don't think that's outrageous. I think when you look at the software, if it's correctly implemented, it's doing a good job for your business, then actually I'd sit there all day and say you're stupid not to, if that's what it needs to be to get that person who's probably costing you at least a couple of $1,000 a month. It's brilliant value. I think where we do see sometimes, it's the slicing effect, as I call it, which is, it's not just, very few customers are buying BC on its own anymore, isn't it? They're buying it with quite a few add-ons. And when you start to add all of the cost of those add-ons up, that can where you really need to keep an eye on what they're all doing, whether they're giving you payback worth doing.
Whether they're being used. I mean, how many customers buy pieces of software and then don't use them, use them?
Well, they don't even know. I mean, I was at customers yesterday and they had software in there that they didn't even know whether it was being used or not. So it's like, fortunately, it wasn't being paid for. But, I think that's a situation where managing this process and being on top of it.
I think that's the good thing with subscriptions. If you'd paid a chunk, and we've got lots of customers who paid a chunk of money for some custom development, there was a particular requirement, and then 3 years later they don't use that at all. You've paid for that; it's still stuck in your system, and until you come to an upgrade and say,
you paid to maintain it.
Yeah. And for a lot of partners, you're paying to support it on top as well.
How many of us have took subscriptions out?
In your personal life,
and just keep on paying them.
What's
this $4.99 that's going out every month?
I tell you what, in businesses that's worse,
because
nobody has control, and this has been going out the bank for the last 10 years, and we don't. I daren't stop it, but I don't really know
what will happen.
The number of times I've seen that situation in lots.
It needs to be whether it falls into IT or finance. Somebody needs to.
There
make
needs
sure
to be a
they
regular
understand,
review. It's part
what
of the process.
Their licensing is costing them, and when those costs might change, because obviously that's quite a big jump. When you lose that 40% discount in 3 years' time, that's quite a big jump. So I think that's quite important.
You're absolutely spot on, Liam, because with my Clever Dynamics hat on, we can produce a product, put that product into AppSource. It can be a great product now, and then suddenly in 6 months' time we start noticing, this person stopped paying their subscription, and we go and find some competitor who has leapfrogged us. So you really do have to keep pushing the boundaries of saying, because you only get a subscription if you're the best product in that category, right? So you have to be able to really prove that beyond doubt. So that's where traditionally you sold the license. They paid 10 grand in license invested into your product. You were charging them, £1,500 a year maintenance, £1,600 a year maintenance, or whatever. It's such a big ask for them to go and spend another 10 grand on the competitor's product that they wouldn't very often change. I think that's one of the changes about the new world is people are going to go, well, actually,
it's not going to cost any more to switch product other than the initial training potentially and learning. But actually, stop that subscription, start another one. Stop Netflix, start.
It's all to do with
Disney come along and take Netflix's.
You got to keep adding. I mean, we try and do that.
I think there is differences there. So if the add-on is deeply embedded in their business process and they can't really operate without it, they're going to think long and hard. But a lot of the AppSource add-ons initially, as included, were gap fillers as I call them, which it just did some, a few little things that Microsoft probably should have done but didn't do. Now Microsoft is doing them. Maybe there's less value in that add-on, and also, maybe the competition's doing something that's slightly a bit better thought through or whatever, and they're the ones that I think are vulnerable more than are completely embedded in manufacturing planning or inventory supply, or one of the core ones in there. They're not going to change quite so easily, but it is a different world from the way it was. You don't, from a client's perspective as well, it's not just we go buy a new system every decade and that's it, but then static as is, which is a really good thing. You can do continuous improvement in a whole different way these days. So does that cover our BC20?
Yeah, I think we've gone a bit all over the place on that one.
We have. It's interesting times. Talking about ISVs as well. Some fun ones with some of the ISVs on the BC20 upgrade, but by and large they've gone through relatively smoothly.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not. There's certainly nothing holding us up at the moment. The products are ready. Given
that there was quite a lot of kind of stories around deprecation and so on.
Technical
technical changes. So the authorization, authentication.
That hasn't necessarily gone away though. We've got away with that little bit this time because it's not hard and fast.
Yeah, you can't go and create a new
create new ones,
new keys, but if you got one there, you can still use it.
Yeah, so the potentially could be, but we think we've resolved all of those.
And the telemetry can tell us, if we've got any left. Microsoft is still saying that there's thousands and thousands of people still using basic authentication.
I don't think.
Well, I think
not certainly not on SaaS. On premise, yes, but not.
But my point to them was, actually, until they've done the 20 upgrade, they're probably going to stick on the old way where they know you weren't going to do a testing cycle to move the authentication to OAuth on 19 and then do another testing cycle to go to 20. So until 20 rolled out, that number was always going to be high. I think that's where the difference between the theory and the practical is. Sometimes there's a gap.
We've got a few moving off SMTP mail as well. That's caused some challenges to go and get the alternate emailing set up as well.
Yeah,
it's just some technical changes, isn't it? That
I think the big one down the line is the pricing changes. I think that's
it's looming, isn't it?
That's looming, and that's going to be fun. Just looking at some of the code we've written around some of the old pricing to actually do the same thing on the new one is I haven't quite worked out how that works yet. Only in a couple of instances. A lot of instances it's fairly instant, but you've got to go through and change it and put that code in to say and when do you do that change. So this is another factor of do I have both sets of code to work the old way and the new way, and it just kicks in when you turn the feature management on? Okay, in which case, when do you go and take the old code out, and how do you know what old code to take out? Taking code out is more of a challenge than putting code in.
This is an ongoing battle we have, isn't it? That everybody gets very nervous to take out the old way, just in case. And as you said earlier, take it out, see if anyone screams. That's sometimes the only way, isn't it?
I did some kind of reviews with some of the consultants last week, and I was surprised that, whether I should be surprised, I don't know, but most of them are using the new pricing features.
Certainly for the new installs, why wouldn't you now?
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be the customers that have had levels and years of custom bespoke around the pricing that's going to be a little bit more difficult to unpick, I think.
I mean, if you're doing any customization around pricing, you should use the new
100%.
The new features.
Well, I think one of the principles that everybody out there should adopt is that when you start a new project, you go into feature management, turn everything on.
Yes.
Implement it the new way. Why would you implement something that's shortly about to become obsolete?
Depends how new it is.
If we'd done that with pricing when we first released it, we'd have been in a bit of a mess.
Go through the pain. I'm no sympathy, because I think you're going to have that problem. sooner or later. I also think that, when you get, it's like if you've got a project, if anybody out there at the moment has got a project for implementation and is doing it on 19, even if it's on premise, go update to, take a week out of your project, update it to 20, and then go into 20 and turn the feature management on. If you cope with it at this point, implementing something new before you go live is always, I reckon, probably 25% of the hassle of doing it post go live.
Yes.
So you're going to save a bunch of money and you're going to save a bunch of hassle.
Yes, agreed.
So I know people in projects sometimes go, oh no, we don't want more work to do, we've just got this working. But go backwards to go forwards, because I promise you down the line you will be very thankful you've done that.
Yeah, agreed.
So thank you for doing this quick chat and roundup. Always enjoy it, always learn something. Thanks to the people out there for listening, and we'll come to you again shortly in the future.